At her sister's wedding, my girlfriend caught the bouquet and said, "Don't get any ideas, I'm not ready to settle with someone like you." I was holding the ring box in my pocket, planning to propose that night. I replied, "Good to know where we stand." That night when she fell asleep, I put the empty ring box on the kitchen counter with a note that said, "Neither am I anymore," and left for good. Now she's blowing up my phone, and her sister texted me saying, she's been crying for 3 days straight asking what that empty box meant. Please call her back. You know that feeling when your whole world crumbles in a single moment? When everything you thought you knew about someone turns out to be a lie. Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me at Sarah's wedding. And let me tell you, what I did next changed everything. I'm talking about my girlfriend Emma. 3 years together, and I thought I knew her inside and out. Boy, was I wrong. So there I was, standing in the middle of this gorgeous outdoor wedding reception, watching Emma catch her sister's bouquet. The moment felt perfect, fairy lights twinkling overhead, everyone cheering, and Emma looking absolutely stunning in her emerald dress. I had the ring box burning a hole in my pocket, and my heart was practically beating out of my chest. This was it. This was my moment. But then Emma turned to face me, bouquet in hand, and said the words that would haunt me forever, "Don't get any ideas, I'm not ready to settle with someone like you." Someone like me. The entire reception seemed to freeze. I felt every eye on us, heard the uncomfortable silence that followed. My hand instinctively moved to the ring box in my pocket, the one containing a 2-carat diamond that had cost me 6 months of savings. "Good to know where we stand," I replied, somehow managing to keep my voice steady. But inside? Inside, I was dying. Have you ever had someone you love completely destroy you with just one sentence? Because that's what happened to me in that moment. 3 years of my life, 3 years of believing we were building something together, and she just crushed it all like it meant nothing. The rest of the reception was a blur. I smiled, I made small talk, I even danced with Emma when she pulled me onto the dance floor later. But something had changed in me. Something fundamental had shifted, and there was no going back. Emma acted like nothing had happened. She laughed with her friends, posed for photos, and even pulled me close during the slow songs. But every time she looked at me, all I could hear were those words echoing in my head, "Someone like you." What did that even mean? Someone like me, someone who loved her unconditionally? Someone who had spent 3 years being there for her through everything? Someone who was ready to commit his entire life to her? The drive home was torture. Emma chattered away about how beautiful the wedding was, how happy she was for her sister, how much fun she'd had. She didn't mention the bouquet incident once. Not once. "Did you have fun tonight?" she asked as we pulled into our apartment complex. "Sure," I lied. "Sarah looked absolutely gorgeous, didn't she? And did you see how emotional Mom got during the ceremony?" I swear, I almost started crying myself. I nodded along, but I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about the ring box in my pocket, about the proposal I'd planned so carefully, about how stupid I'd been to think Emma and I were on the same page. Back at the apartment, Emma went through her usual nighttime routine, removing her makeup, changing into pajamas, brushing her teeth. Normal couple stuff. Except nothing felt normal anymore. "I'm exhausted," she said, climbing into bed. "That was such a long day." "Yeah," I agreed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Emma, about tonight." She mumbled, already half asleep. "Never mind. Get some rest." Within minutes, she was fast asleep. And that's when I knew what I had to do. I sat there for a long time, just watching her sleep. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. But I couldn't stop thinking about her words, about the way she'd said them so casually, like my feelings didn't matter at all. You want to know what the worst part was? I realized this wasn't the first time she'd made comments like that. There were other moments, little things I'd brushed off or rationalized away. Comments about when I'm ready to settle down or if I ever get married, always phrased like I wasn't even part of the equation. I'd been blind. Completely, utterly blind. Quietly, I got up and walked to the kitchen. I pulled out the ring box and stared at it for a long moment. Then I opened it, took out the beautiful diamond ring, and slipped it into my wallet. The empty ring box sat on the kitchen counter like an accusation. I found a piece of paper and wrote a simple note, "Neither am I anymore." Then I packed a bag with essentials, clothes, toiletries, important documents. I moved like a ghost through our apartment, careful not to wake Emma. Every item I picked up felt like a memory, a piece of the life I'd thought we were building together. The photos on the dresser, our first vacation together, last Christmas morning, Emma's birthday dinner where she'd laughed so hard at my terrible jokes. I left them all behind. By 3 a.m., I was done. I took one last look at Emma, sleeping peacefully in our bed, completely unaware that her world was about to change forever. Part of me wanted to wake her up, to have one final conversation, To give her a chance to explain herself. But then I remembered her words again. The casual cruelty of them. The way she'd dismissed 3 years of our relationship like it was nothing. I left the apartment key on the counter next to the ring box and walked out the door. The next few days were a whirlwind. I stayed at my buddy Jake's place, sleeping on his couch and trying to figure out my next move. I'd already started looking for a new apartment, and I was lucky enough to find a decent place across town that I could move into immediately. Emma's first text came around noon the next day. "Where are you? Your key is gone." I didn't respond. Then, "What does this box mean? What's going on?" Still nothing from me. By evening, she was calling. I let every call go to voicemail, but I listened to them. Oh, I listened to every single one. "Please call me back. I don't understand what's happening. I found your note. What do you mean neither am I anymore? What's going on? I'm scared. Please just tell me you're okay." The desperation in her voice was something I'd never heard before. But I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. Do you think I was being cruel? Maybe. But after 3 years of being taken for granted, after having my love thrown back in my face at her sister's wedding, I thought I deserved to take some time to process everything. Day 2 brought more of the same. Emma's texts were becoming more frantic. "I've been calling everyone. No one knows where you are. I don't understand what I did wrong. The ring box is empty. Was there supposed to be something in it?" That last text almost broke me. Almost. Because yes, Emma, there was supposed to be something in it. There was supposed to be a symbol of my commitment to you, a promise of our future together, a declaration of how much I loved you. But you made it clear at your sister's wedding that you weren't ready to settle with someone like me. So I took the ring back. Just like I was taking my life back. On day 3, things escalated. Emma's sister Sarah started texting me. She's been crying for 3 days straight asking what that empty box meant. Please call her back. I don't know what happened between you two, but she's a mess. She hasn't eaten, she's barely sleeping. This isn't like her. She keeps saying she made a mistake. What mistake? What happened at my wedding? I stared at that last text for a long time. So Emma did remember what she'd said. She knew exactly what she'd done. But here's the thing, I wasn't ready to forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Jake found me sitting in his kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at my phone. "You okay, man?" he asked, grabbing a glass of water. "She's been texting me," I said quietly. "Her sister too. They want to know what happened. You gonna tell them?" I shook my head. I don't know what to say. How do you explain to someone that they broke your heart in front of 50 people and didn't even realize it? Jake sat down across from me. "Look, I know you're hurting. What she said was messed up. But maybe you should at least text her back, let her know you're alive." "Why?" I asked. "So she can make me feel like garbage again? So she can tell me I'm overreacting?" "No, man. Because you're not that kind of person. You're better than this." But was I? At that moment, I honestly didn't know anymore. The calls and texts continued for days. Emma's messages went from confused to desperate to angry and back to desperate again. She enlisted mutual friends to reach out to me. She even had my mom call me, asking if I was okay and begging me to call Emma back. "She's really worried about you, honey," Mom said during one particularly difficult conversation. "She says you just disappeared with no explanation." "I left an explanation," I replied. A cryptic note next to an empty jewelry box isn't an explanation. It's a riddle. What's going on? This isn't like you. My mom was right. This wasn't like me. The old me would have talked things through, would have given Emma a chance to explain, would have worked things out like a mature adult. But the old me had also been naive enough to think that Emma loved me the way I loved her. The old me had been planning to propose to someone who saw me as a temporary placeholder until something better came along. The new me was done being taken for granted. By the end of week 1, Emma's messages had taken on a different tone. "I know you're reading these. I know you're choosing not to respond. I get that you're angry, but please just give me a chance to explain. I keep replaying that night over and over. I think I know what this is about. I said something stupid when I caught the bouquet, didn't I? I was nervous. There were so many people watching, and I panicked. I didn't mean what I said. You have to know that." Ah, there it was. She finally remembered. But the thing is, when people are caught off guard, when they're nervous or panicked, they usually tell the truth. Emma's first instinct when she caught that bouquet wasn't excitement about our future together, it was panic about being tied down to someone like me. That said everything I needed to know. Have you ever been in a situation where someone hurt you so badly that their apology almost made it worse? Because that's exactly how I felt reading Emma's texts. She was sorry she'd said it, but was she sorry she'd felt it? Week 2 brought a new development. Emma showed up at my office. I was coming back from lunch when I saw her standing by my car in the parking lot. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing the same sweatshirt she'd had for years. This wasn't the put-together Emma I knew. "We need to talk," she said the moment she saw me. "I don't think we do," I replied, walking past her toward the building. "Stop." Her voice broke. "Please. I can't do this anymore. I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't function. I need to know why you left." I turned around slowly. "You really don't know?" "I know what I said at the wedding was stupid. I know I hurt your feelings. But people say dumb things when they're put on the spot. You know me better than that." "Do I?" I asked. "Because 3 years together, and I apparently didn't know you at all." Emma's face crumpled. "Don't say that. You know me better than anyone. You know I love you." "Love me?" I laughed bitterly. "You love me so much that the thought of marrying me made you panic in front of your entire family?" That's not what happened." "Then what did happen, Emma?" "Because from where I was standing, it looked like you were horrified at the possibility of being stuck with me forever." She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "I was scared, okay? Marriage is huge, and I wasn't ready to think about it. But that doesn't mean I don't love you." "Scared of marriage, or scared of marrying me specifically?" The question hung in the air between us like a challenge. Emma opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. And in that moment of hesitation, I got my answer. "That's what I thought," I said, turning to walk away. "Wait." Emma grabbed my arm. "I was scared of marrying anyone. It wasn't about you specifically." "Really? Because you said you weren't ready to settle with someone like me." "Not someone. Someone like me. There's a difference." Emma's grip on my arm tightened. I misspoke. I was nervous and I said the wrong thing. "You're twisting my words." "Am I? Or am I finally hearing them clearly for the first time?" We stood there in the parking lot, Emma crying and me feeling like my heart was breaking all over again. This was the woman I'd planned to spend my life with, and we couldn't even have a conversation anymore without it turning into an argument. "The ring box," Emma said suddenly. "Was there supposed to be a ring in it?" I looked into her eyes, those beautiful green eyes that had captivated me from the moment we met. "What do you think?" "Oh my." Emma's hands flew to her mouth. "You were going to propose that night, weren't you? At Sarah's wedding? Does it matter now?" "Of course it matters. If I had known." "If you had known what? You would have pretended to be excited? You would have said yes out of guilt?" "I would have been honest with you about my feelings instead of making that stupid joke." "And what are your feelings, Emma? Really? Because I'm starting to think I've been kidding myself for 3 years." Emma was quiet for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes. But marriage is permanent. It's forever. And I don't know if I'm ready for forever with anyone." There it was. The truth I'd been avoiding for weeks. "Then why are you here?" I asked. "Why are you fighting so hard to get me back if you're not ready for forever?" "Because I can't lose you. Because the thought of you not being in my life is worse than the thought of marriage. But not worse than the thought of actually marrying me." Emma didn't respond, which was an answer in itself. "I need time," she said finally. "Can't we just go back to the way things were? Can't we just be happy together without all this pressure?" And there it was, the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. Emma wanted to go back to the way things were, where I was content to be her boyfriend indefinitely while she figured out whether I was good enough to marry. But I wasn't that person anymore. I couldn't be that person anymore. "No," I said simply. "We can't." "Why not?" "Because I know how you really feel about me now. And I can't unknow it." Emma sobbed harder. "It's not fair. You're punishing me for one stupid comment." "I'm not punishing you, Emma. I'm protecting myself." "From what?" "From wasting any more time on someone who sees me as a placeholder." The words hit Emma like a physical blow. She actually stepped backward, shaking her head. "That's not. I don't." "Don't you?" I asked. "Be honest with yourself, Emma. Really honest. When you think about your future, when you imagine getting married and having kids and growing old with someone, do you see me? Or do you see some vague idea of a perfect person who hasn't come along yet?" Emma's silence was deafening. "That's what I thought," I said, turning to walk away again. "Wait," Emma called out. "What about us? What about everything we've built together?" I stopped and looked back at her one last time. "What about it? You made it clear that what we've built isn't good enough for you. So I'm setting you free to find someone who is." "I don't want to be free. I want to be with you." "No, Emma. You want to be comfortable. You want to have someone who loves you unconditionally while you keep your options open. But I'm done being your safety net. I walked into my office building, leaving Emma crying in the parking lot. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done, but I knew it was right. That night, I got a text from Sarah. I don't know what happened between you two, but Emma came home hysterical. She told me about the proposal. I'm so sorry. I typed and deleted a dozen responses before finally settling on, she made her choice. Sarah's response came immediately, did she? Because it seems like she's trying to make a different choice now. But that was the problem. Emma was only trying to make a different choice because she'd lost me. If I'd never left, if I'd never forced her to confront her real feelings, she would have been content to string me along indefinitely. The next few weeks were a blur of apartment hunting, moving, and trying to establish a new routine. I threw myself into work, hit the gym harder than I ever had before, and slowly started to rebuild my life without Emma. The calls and texts continued for a while, but they became less frequent. Emma's messages went from desperate to pleading to angry to sad and finally to acceptance. Her last text came 6 weeks after I'd left. I know you're not going to respond to this, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for taking you for granted, I'm sorry for hurting you, and I'm sorry for not realizing how lucky I was to have someone who loved me the way you did. I hope someday you can forgive me, and I hope you find someone who deserves you. I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell her that I forgave her, that I hoped she found happiness too. But another part of me knew that responding would only give her false hope. So I didn't respond. I saved the message, turned off my phone, and went to bed. 3 months later, I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I'd found a great apartment, made some new friends at the gym, and even started dating again. Nothing serious, but it was nice to remember that there were other people out there who might actually want to build a future with me. That's when I got the call from Jake. Dude, you need to know something, he said without preamble. Emma's engaged. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. What? She's engaged. To some guy named Marcus. They've been dating for like 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Emma had found someone she was ready to marry in 6 weeks. Are you okay? Jake asked. I debated whether to tell you, but I figured you'd want to know. I'm fine, I lied. Good for her. But I wasn't fine. I was devastated. Because Emma's engagement proved everything I'd suspected, she wasn't afraid of marriage. She was afraid of marrying me. Do you know how that feels? To realize that the person you loved for 3 years was just killing time with you until something better came along? To know that you were so inadequate in their eyes that they'd rather marry a stranger than commit to you? It was crushing. I spent the next few days in a haze of anger and self-pity. I replayed every moment of our relationship, looking for signs I'd missed, red flags I'd ignored. How had I been so blind? Then Sarah texted me, I heard Jake told you about Emma's engagement. I wanted you to hear this from me, it's not what you think. What do you mean? I texted back. Can we meet for coffee? There are things you need to know. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Sarah looked nervous when I met her at the little cafe downtown. She'd ordered us both coffee, but hers sat untouched while she fidgeted with her napkin. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, she said finally. But I can't watch you think the worst of Emma when it's not true. What are you talking about? The engagement. It's not real. Well, it is, but it's not. It's complicated. I frowned. How is an engagement complicated? Sarah sighed. Emma met Marcus right after you broke up. He was persistent, charming, everything she thought she wanted. But she was also vulnerable and heartbroken and not thinking clearly. Get to the point, Sarah. Marcus proposed after 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And Emma said yes, but not because she loves him. Then why? Because she was trying to prove to herself that she could commit to someone. Because she thought if she could say yes to a stranger, then there must have been something wrong with you, not her. I stared at Sarah, trying to process what she was telling me. That's insane. I know. And it gets worse. Emma realized her mistake almost immediately, but by then she'd already said yes, already told everyone, already started planning a wedding. She's trapped herself in an engagement to someone she doesn't love because she's too proud to admit she made a mistake. That's her choice, I said, even though my heart was racing. Is it? Because she calls me crying every night, talking about how she ruined the best thing that ever happened to her. She knows she messed up with you, and she's punishing herself by marrying someone she doesn't love. Why are you telling me this? Because you both deserve better. Because Emma is about to marry the wrong person for all the wrong reasons, and you're walking around thinking she never loved you when the truth is she loved you too much to handle it. I sat back in my chair, overwhelmed. Even if that's true, what am I supposed to do about it? She's engaged to someone else. Fight for her, Sarah said simply. Show up at her engagement party next weekend and tell her how you feel. Absolutely not. Why not? Because she made her choice. Multiple choices, actually. She chose to dismiss me at your wedding, she chose not to fight for our relationship when I left, and she chose to get engaged to someone else. I'm not going to be the guy who shows up and ruins her engagement party. Sarah leaned forward. What if she wants you to ruin it? Then she should have thought of that before she said yes to someone else. We sat in silence for a moment, Sarah looking defeated and me feeling more confused than ever. I have to ask, I said finally. The night of your wedding, when Emma caught the bouquet and said what she said. Was she really just nervous, or was she being honest? Sarah's face fell. She was being honest. But not about you specifically. Emma has always been terrified of commitment, of being tied down, of losing her independence. She's been that way since we were kids. So she didn't want to marry me. She didn't want to marry anyone. But she especially didn't want to marry you. I felt like I'd been slapped. Thanks for the honesty, I guess. No, you don't understand. She didn't want to marry you because you were real. Because marrying you would have meant giving up her fantasy of the perfect life with the perfect person. You represented reality, and reality scared her. And now? Now she's engaged to someone who feels like a fantasy. Someone she barely knows, someone who can't disappoint her because she doesn't know him well enough to be disappointed. It's safer. I shook my head. That's the most messed up thing I've ever heard. I know. But it's Emma. She's always been complicated. I left that coffee meeting more confused than ever. Part of me wanted to believe Sarah, wanted to think that Emma's engagement was just a mistake born out of fear and regret. But another part of me knew that it didn't matter. Emma had made her choices, and I had to live with the consequences. The engagement party was the following Saturday. I didn't go, obviously, but I found myself thinking about it all day. Was Emma happy? Was she having second thoughts? Was she thinking about me? I got my answer Sunday morning when Sarah called me, sobbing. She did it, Sarah said through her tears. She actually did it. Did what? She called off the engagement. At her own engagement party. In front of everyone. I sat down hard on my couch. What happened? Marcus was giving a speech about how he knew Emma was the one from the moment he met her, and Emma just broke. She started crying and said she couldn't do it anymore. She told everyone she was sorry, that she was marrying him for the wrong reasons, and that she couldn't go through with it. How did Marcus take it? About as well as you'd expect. He was humiliated, angry, confused. He left with his family, and Emma was left standing there in front of 50 people who had no idea what to do. Where is she now? At home, locked in her room. She won't talk to anyone. She just keeps saying she's ruined everything. I closed my eyes, trying to process this latest development. Sarah, I'm sorry, but I don't know what you want me to do about this. I want you to call her. Or better yet, come over. She needs to know that there's still hope for her, that she hasn't destroyed every chance at happiness. I can't do that. Why not? Because this isn't about me. This is about Emma figuring out what she actually wants, not running to me because her backup plan fell through. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. You really don't think she loves you? I think Emma loves the idea of me now that she can't have me. But when she could have me, when I was offering her everything she claims to want now, she made it clear that I wasn't good enough. People make mistakes. Some mistakes are too big to come back from. After I hung up with Sarah, I sat in my apartment thinking about everything that had happened. Emma had called off her engagement, just like Sarah had predicted. But instead of feeling vindicated or hopeful, I just felt sad. The Emma I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago would never have gotten engaged to someone she didn't love. She would never have put herself and another person through that kind of pain and humiliation. The fact that she had done those things proved that she wasn't the person I'd thought she was. Or maybe she was exactly the person I'd thought she was, and I'd just been too blind to see it. Either way, it didn't matter. Emma had made her choices, and I had made mine. We were done. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Marcus. I don't know you, but Sarah gave me your number. I think you should know that Emma talked about you constantly. The whole time we were together, she compared me to you. I thought she was just being nostalgic, but now I realize she was trying to turn me into you. I'm sorry for both of us. I stared at that text for a long time. Marcus seemed like a decent guy who had gotten caught up in Emma's mess through no fault of his own. I felt bad for him, but I also felt vindicated. Emma hadn't moved on from me, she'd tried to replace me with someone she thought was better. When that didn't work, she'd called off the engagement. But that didn't mean she'd learned anything from the experience. It just meant she'd realized that Marcus wasn't the upgrade she'd thought he was. I deleted Marcus's text without responding and went to bed. The next few days passed quietly. I went to work, hit the gym, had dinner with friends. Normal life stuff. I didn't hear from Emma or Sarah, and I was grateful for the peace. Then, on Thursday evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Emma standing in my hallway, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. She was wearing jeans and an old t-shirt, her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her eyes were red from crying. "Hi," she said quietly. "Emma. What are you doing here?" "I needed to see you. I needed to apologize. Really apologize, not just through texts or through Sarah." I stood in the doorway, not inviting her in. "Okay. Apologize." Emma's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for what I said at Sarah's wedding, I'm sorry for taking you for granted, I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't good enough when you were everything I could have asked for." But what? There's always a but with you, Emma. You're sorry, but you were scared. You love me, but you're not ready. You want to be with me, but marriage is too much pressure. What's the but this time? Emma wiped her eyes. "There is no but. I'm just sorry. I messed up, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway." "Why now? Why after you got engaged to someone else?" "Because I had to learn the hard way that what we had was real. I had to almost marry someone I didn't love to realize that I'd given up the one person I actually did love." I leaned against the doorframe. "Do you love me, Emma? Really? Or do you just love the idea of me now that you can't have me?" "I love you. I've always loved you. I was just too scared to admit it, even to myself. And now? Now I'm not scared anymore. Now I know that losing you is worse than any fear I had about commitment." I looked at Emma standing in my hallway, vulnerable and broken and asking for forgiveness. Part of me wanted to invite her in, to hold her, to tell her that we could work things out. But another part of me remembered the pain of the last few months, the humiliation of her rejection, the way she'd tried to replace me with someone else. "I can't do this," I said finally. "Please. Just give me a chance to prove that I've changed." "Have you? Because getting engaged to someone else doesn't exactly scream change to me." Emma looked down at her feet. "I know how it looks. I know I made things worse. But I was trying to move on, trying to prove to myself that I could be happy with someone else. And I couldn't. Every day with Marcus, I thought about you. Every time he held my hand or kissed me or talked about our future, I wished it was you instead." "So you used him?" "Yes. And I hate myself for it. I hurt a good man because I was too proud to admit I'd made a mistake with you. And now you want to hurt me again?" Emma looked up sharply. "What do you mean? You want me to take you back, to forgive you, to pretend like the last few months never happened? But what happens when you get scared again? What happens when the reality of being with me doesn't match the fantasy you've built up in your head?" "That won't happen." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen what life is like without you. I know what I'm giving up if I lose you again." I shook my head. "Emma, you don't get it. You can't just show up here and expect everything to go back to the way it was. You broke something between us, and I don't know if it can be fixed. I want to try. Please, just let me try." "Why? So you can break my heart again when you realize you're still not ready for the reality of being with me?" Emma started crying again. "I won't. I promise I won't. You promised me before, Emma. Every time you said you loved me, every time you talked about our future together, you were making a promise. And you broke it. I know. But I'm different now." "Are you?" "Because from where I'm standing, you look like the same person who was too embarrassed to catch a bouquet at her sister's wedding." Emma flinched like I'd hit her. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? You humiliated me in front of your entire family, Emma. You made me feel like I was something you were ashamed of. Do you have any idea how that felt? I wasn't ashamed of you. I was scared of what people would think if they saw me catch the bouquet. I was scared of the pressure, of everyone expecting us to get engaged next. So you threw me under the bus instead." I panicked. I said something stupid without thinking about how it would affect you. "And then you got engaged to someone else 6 weeks later." Emma was sobbing now. I know it looks terrible. I know I hurt you. But I'm here now, I'm choosing you now. Doesn't that count for something?" I looked at Emma, really looked at her. She was a mess, crying, desperate, begging for forgiveness. But she was also beautiful, and I'd loved her for 3 years, and part of me still loved her now. But love wasn't enough. It had never been enough with Emma. "I can't," I said finally. "I'm sorry, but I can't." "Why not?" "Because you're asking me to trust you with my heart again, and I don't trust you. I don't trust that you won't get scared again, I don't trust that you won't change your mind again, and I don't trust that I'm anything more than a safe choice to you." "You're not a safe choice. You're the right choice." "Am I? Or am I just the choice you're making because Marcus didn't work out?" Emma's face crumpled. How can you say that? Because it's true. If Marcus had been everything you thought he was, you'd be married to him by now. You only want me back because your plan A didn't work out. That's not how it is. Isn't it? Be honest with me, Emma. Really honest. If Marcus had been perfect, if he'd been everything you thought you wanted, would you be standing here right now? Emma's silence was all the answer I needed. That's what I thought, I said, stepping back into my apartment. I'm sorry, Emma. I really am. But I can't be your backup plan anymore. Wait. Emma grabbed the door before I could close it. Please don't do this. I love you. I know I messed up, but I love you. I know you do, I said softly. But sometimes love isn't enough. I gently closed the door, leaving Emma standing in the hallway. I could hear her crying through the thin walls, and it took everything in me not to open the door and comfort her. But I knew that if I did, I'd be right back where I started, in love with someone who would never truly choose me. After what felt like hours, I heard her footsteps retreating down the hallway. I looked out the window and watched her drive away, wondering if I'd ever see her again. The answer came sooner than I expected. The next morning, I found an envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a handwritten letter, 5 pages of Emma's careful script, explaining everything she'd been too proud or scared to say before. She wrote about how she'd fallen in love with me gradually, how it had scared her because it was so different from the dramatic, passionate relationships she'd had before. She wrote about how she'd convinced herself that our quiet, steady love wasn't real love, that real love was supposed to be more intense, more unpredictable. She wrote about the night of Sarah's wedding, how she'd panicked when she caught the bouquet because she'd seen the look in my eyes and known what was coming. She'd been terrified of disappointing me, of not being ready for the commitment I deserved, so she'd pushed me away instead. She wrote about the weeks after I left, how she'd tried to convince herself that she was better off without me, that she could find someone who excited her more. She wrote about meeting Marcus, about how she'd thought his intensity and passion were what she'd been missing with me. And she wrote about the moment she realized she'd been wrong about everything. It was 3 weeks into our relationship, she wrote. Marcus was telling me about his day, and I realized I wasn't listening. I was thinking about you, about how you used to tell me about your day, about how I never got bored listening to you talk about even the most mundane things. That's when I knew I'd made a mistake. She wrote about how she'd tried to make things work with Marcus anyway, how she'd convinced herself that she could learn to love him the way she'd loved me. She wrote about the engagement, about how she'd said yes because she thought it was what she was supposed to do, not because it was what she wanted. And she wrote about the moment she'd realized she couldn't go through with it. I was standing there in my engagement dress, looking at Marcus giving his speech about how he knew I was the one, and all I could think about was how you never would have proposed to me in front of a crowd. You would have made it private, intimate, just between us. You would have known that I hate being the center of attention, that I would have been mortified to have everyone watching me. Marcus didn't know that about me because Marcus didn't really know me at all. The letter ended with an apology and a promise. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I've hurt you too badly, and I know you've moved on. But I want you to know that I finally understand what I lost. I understand that what we had was real, and rare, and worth fighting for. I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm just asking you to know that I love you, that I've always loved you, and that I'm sorry it took me so long to figure out how to say it. I read that letter 3 times, sitting on my couch with tears streaming down my face. It was everything I'd wanted to hear from Emma for months, but it was also too late. Because the truth was, I had moved on. Not completely, not enough to stop loving her, but enough to know that I deserved better than someone who had to lose me to realize they wanted me. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my dresser drawer. Then I got dressed and went to work, determined to move forward with my life. That afternoon, I had a revelation. I was sitting in a meeting, half listening to my colleagues discuss quarterly projections, when I realized that Emma's rejection had been the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because it didn't hurt, it had nearly destroyed me. But because it had forced me to confront some uncomfortable truths about myself. I'd been so focused on being the perfect boyfriend, on making Emma happy, that I'd lost sight of what I wanted and needed in a relationship. Emma was right about one thing, our love had been quiet and steady. But she was wrong about that being a bad thing. Quiet and steady wasn't boring or inadequate. It was mature, it was real, and it was exactly what I wanted in a partner. The problem wasn't that our love wasn't passionate enough. The problem was that Emma had been too immature to appreciate it. Do you ever have those moments where everything suddenly makes sense? Where you realize that what you thought was your biggest failure was actually your greatest success? That's what happened to me that day. I had offered Emma something real and lasting, and she had rejected it in favor of something flashy and temporary. That said more about her than it did about me. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called my mom. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, sounding surprised. "How are you?" I'm good, Mom. Actually, I'm really good. You sound different. Happier. I am. I think I finally figured some things out. About Emma? About everything. About what I want, about what I deserve, about what real love looks like. My mom was quiet for a moment. I'm proud of you, she said finally. For what? For not settling. For knowing your worth. For walking away from something that wasn't right for you, even when it was hard. That night, I went out with Jake and some other friends. We went to a new restaurant downtown, had some great food, and laughed until my sides hurt. It was the first time in months that I'd felt completely present, completely myself. You seem different, Jake observed as we were walking back to our cars. Different how? Lighter. Like you've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. He was right. I had been carrying something heavy, the weight of Emma's rejection, the burden of feeling like I wasn't good enough, the pain of losing someone I'd thought was my forever person. But I'd finally realized that Emma's inability to appreciate what we had wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of her maturity, her priorities, her capacity for love. I deserved someone who would choose me every day, not someone who would only realize my value after losing me. I deserved someone who would be excited about our future together, not someone who would panic at the thought of committing to me. Most importantly, I deserved someone who would see our quiet, steady love as a strength, not a weakness. 3 months later, I met Jessica. She was a teacher at the elementary school next to my office building. I'd seen her a few times in the coffee shop we both frequented, and I'd always been struck by how kind she was to everyone around her, the baristas, the other customers, even the grumpy businessman who complained about his order every single day. One morning, she was struggling with a box of supplies for her classroom, and I offered to help her carry it to her car. "Thank you so much," she said, smiling up at me. "I'm Jessica, by the way." "I'm David. And you're welcome. I've seen you in here before. You always order the same thing, large coffee, no cream, 1 sugar." I was surprised she'd noticed. "You have a good memory." Occupational hazard. "I teach 2nd grade, you have to remember everything." We talked for a few more minutes, and I found myself genuinely enjoying the conversation. Jessica was funny, intelligent, and refreshingly straightforward. When she mentioned that she was new to the city and didn't know many people, I found myself asking if she'd like to have dinner sometime. "I'd like that," she said, and I could tell she meant it. Our first date was wonderful. We went to a quiet Italian restaurant and talked for hours about everything and nothing. Jessica told me about her students, her family, her dreams of traveling the world. I told her about my work, my hobbies, my love of hiking. What struck me most was how easy it was. There was no game playing, no mixed signals, no wondering where I stood. Jessica was present, engaged, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. After dinner, I walked her to her car. "I had a really good time," she said. "So did I. Would you like to do this again?" "Absolutely." She didn't play hard to get, didn't make me wait 3 days to call her, didn't send mixed signals about her interest. She was straightforward about what she wanted, and what she wanted was to spend more time with me. It was a revelation. Over the next few weeks, Jessica and I fell into an easy rhythm. We had dinner twice a week, went hiking on weekends, and spent hours talking on the phone. She met my friends, I met hers, and everything felt natural and right. The best part was that Jessica seemed to genuinely appreciate the things about me that Emma had taken for granted. She loved that I was reliable, that I followed through on my promises, that I was consistent in my affection for her. "You're not like other guys I've dated," she told me one evening as we were watching a movie at her apartment. "How so?" "You're steady. Dependable. I never have to wonder where I stand with you or whether you're going to disappear on me. It's nice." "Just nice?" I teased. "Okay, it's amazing. I've dated too many guys who thought love was supposed to be dramatic and complicated. It's refreshing to be with someone who thinks love should be simple and honest." Simple and honest. 2 things Emma had never been able to handle. 6 months into our relationship, Jessica and I were having dinner at our favorite restaurant when she brought up the subject of marriage. "I know it's early," she said, "but I think it's important for people to be on the same page about big things. How do you feel about marriage?" I appreciated her directness. "I think marriage is great when 2 people are ready for it and want the same things. What about you?" "I want to get married someday. I want kids, a house, the whole traditional thing. I know that's not trendy anymore, but it's what I want." "It's what I want too," I said, and I meant it. "Really? You're not scared of commitment?" I laughed. "No, I'm not scared of commitment. I'm scared of committing to the wrong person, but I'm not scared of commitment itself." Jessica smiled. "Good. Because I've been thinking about our future a lot lately, and I like what I see." "What do you see?" I see two people who are compatible, who want the same things, who make each other happy. I see a partnership that could last. It was everything I'd wanted to hear from Emma but never had. That night, as I was driving home, I realized I hadn't thought about Emma in weeks. The pain of her rejection, the anger over her betrayal, the sadness over what we'd lost, it had all faded into a distant memory. I wasn't grateful for what Emma had put me through, but I was grateful for the lesson she'd taught me. I was grateful that she'd shown me what I didn't want in a partner, what I wouldn't tolerate in a relationship. Most of all, I was grateful that she'd forced me to raise my standards. A year later, Jessica and I were engaged. I proposed on a quiet beach at sunset, just the two of us, exactly the way she would have wanted it. When I got down on one knee and pulled out the ring, the same ring I'd bought for Emma but never given her, Jessica's face lit up with pure joy. "Yes," she said before I could even ask the question. "Yes, absolutely yes." There was no hesitation, no panic, no need to think about it. Jessica was ready to spend her life with me, and she wasn't afraid to say so. As I slipped the ring onto her finger, I thought about Emma. I wondered if she was happy, if she'd found someone who could appreciate her complicated nature, if she'd learned to be honest about what she wanted. I hoped she had. Despite everything, I wanted her to be happy. But I was happier. The wedding was small and perfect, just our families and closest friends in Jessica's childhood church. As I watched Jessica walk down the aisle toward me, radiant in her simple white dress, I knew I'd made the right choice. During our vows, Jessica promised to choose me every day, to be honest about her feelings, to build a life with me based on trust and communication. I promised to love her steadily and consistently, to be the partner she deserved, to never take her love for granted. As we exchanged rings, I thought about the empty ring box I'd left on Emma's counter 2 years earlier. That box had represented the end of one chapter of my life, but it had also been the beginning of a better one. After the ceremony, during the reception, Jake pulled me aside. "You look happy, man. Really happy." "I am." "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Emma had said yes that night? If she'd been excited about the proposal instead of horrified?" I considered the question. "Sometimes. But I think I know the answer." "What's that?" "I think we would have gotten married for the wrong reasons. I think I would have spent the rest of my life trying to convince someone to love me the way I love them. I think I would have been miserable." Jake nodded. "Emma did you a favor, didn't she?" "The biggest favor of my life." As the evening wound down and Jessica and I prepared to leave for our honeymoon, I found myself thinking about a question that had haunted me for months after Emma's rejection. Why wasn't I good enough? Now I knew the answer. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was that Emma wasn't ready for someone like me, someone who was serious about love, about commitment, about building a life together. Emma had wanted passion and excitement and drama. She'd wanted someone who would sweep her off her feet and make her feel like she was living in a romantic movie. But real love isn't a movie. Real love is quiet morning conversations and shared responsibilities and choosing each other even when it's not easy. Real love is steady and consistent and sometimes, yes, predictable. Emma had been too young, too immature, too scared to appreciate real love. She'd wanted the fantasy instead of the reality. I'd tried to give her both, but it hadn't been enough. And that was okay. It had to be okay. Because now I was married to someone who wanted exactly what I had to offer. Someone who saw my steadiness as strength, my consistency as commitment, my quiet love as the deepest kind of devotion. As Jessica and I drove away from our wedding reception, heading toward our new life together, I felt a sense of peace I'd never experienced before. I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with exactly the person I was supposed to be with. And Emma? Emma was exactly where she was supposed to be too, somewhere in my past, a lesson learned, a chapter closed. The empty ring box had been my declaration that I was done settling for someone who saw me as second best. It had been my way of saying that I deserved better, that I was worth more than someone's backup plan. It had been the beginning of everything good in my life. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the best revenge isn't getting back at someone who hurt you, but simply living well without them? That's exactly what happened to me. Emma had thought she was too good for me, that she could do better than someone like me. But in the end, I was the one who found real love, real happiness, real partnership. I was the one who won. The last I heard, Emma was still single, still looking for that perfect person who would give her the passionate, dramatic love she thought she wanted. I hoped she'd find it someday, but I also knew that even if she did, it wouldn't be what she expected. Because the truth is, the best love stories aren't the ones filled with drama and passion and grand gestures. The best love stories are the ones where two people choose each other every day, where they build something steady and lasting together, where they find joy in the ordinary moments as much as the extraordinary ones. Emma had been looking for a fairy tale, but she'd missed the fact that I was offering her something better, a real, honest, lasting love. Her loss was Jessica's gain. And honestly, I couldn't be more grateful for how everything turned out. As I write this, 3 years after that devastating night at Sarah's wedding, I'm sitting in the nursery of the house Jessica and I bought together. She's 8 months pregnant with our first child, and we're both so excited we can barely stand it. We've built the kind of life I always dreamed of, quiet, stable, full of love and laughter and shared dreams. We have our routine of morning coffee and evening walks. We have our inside jokes and our future plans and our absolute certainty that we're exactly where we belong. It's not dramatic or passionate or filled with grand gestures. It's just real, and honest, and perfectly, wonderfully ordinary. And every single day, I'm grateful that Emma rejected me. Because her rejection led me to Jessica, and Jessica led me to the life I was always meant to have. The empty ring box was the best decision I ever made. It was my way of saying that I was done accepting crumbs when I deserved the whole feast. And the feast, as it turns out, was even better than I'd imagined. So thank you, Emma, for showing me what I didn't want. Thank you for rejecting me, for humiliating me, for making me walk away from something that was never going to work. Thank you for teaching me that sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is break your heart. Because once my heart healed, it was strong enough to love someone who actually deserved it. And we all lived happily ever after, just not in the way Emma expected.